Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Discover a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. Look for The Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another
Teeth Toth.
to Teeth Toth.
Mm-hmm.
Teeth Toth, where we doth talk about the teeth toth. This is Don't Blame Me, a wonderful, amazing podcast that you recommend to all of your friends and you look forward to every week and is the highlight of your Monday. We didn't make it hard by releasing episodes on a Monday, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Unless some people really look forward to that Monday grind.
It could be they put this on us. They're on their way to work.
That's true.
Start your day off right.
I just love the idea that people listen to us while they're doing spreadsheets and shit, and we're just talking about writing dicks, and their boss is hey, could you come over here? And you're you pause, you're yeah, 1 second, and they don't know what you're listening to. I love it. My name is Megan. I'm joined by my co-host, producer, and the only reason this podcast ever gets posted and is edited and everything. I just show up and look cute sometimes. Melissa!
I'm here, but we also have a team of other people, so it's not just me.
We do, but you hired that team.
That's true.
So I don't have that many email addresses. If you just dip, if this was in the Avengers where the great dust happens and you dusted away, I'm so sorry everybody, but this podcast, I wouldn't know where to start. Sorry to this podcast. I don't know who this podcast is.
Well, when the rapture happens and I go away and all you heathens are left here, I'm sorry, but there won't be a podcast anymore because Megan doesn't know how to do it. Because I'm an angel and I'm going to go straight up.
And me and Lil Nas X will be twerking on the devil. And if the rapture happens, oh, so help me God, if I couldn't learn how to twerk during quarantine, I better. Oh, help me. What's the devil's name?
Lucifer.
Oh, so help me, Lucifer. I will learn how to twerk during the rapture. I will. Because we deserve it. Heathens, if we can't do anything, we twerking. Twerking is for the devil. So I will just do that. Will be me. Yeah, we're gonna give you some advice. Aren't you excited? Don't these sound like two people that you really want their opinions on your life? Well, you fucking do because you called us or you sent in voice memos.
And how do you do that?
By giving us a ring at 310-694-0976. You can leave us a voicemail there. We're not going to answer unless sometimes it rings while we're working, and we like to answer, and not once
no one
has ever responded. They immediately hang up. So don't worry.
Yeah, I think people think they're calling the wrong number, but it's us.
Oh, no, it's us.
We answer. Be hi. But no one, every time we've answered it, people hang up immediately. And then they'll call back and they're like, hey, and they're just a little confused. But they're I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, we've done it 3 times. It's always a great fun for us and no one ever answers. Yeah, so leave us a voicemail. Got to keep it under 3 minutes or you'll be cut off. We ask that you write down everything that you want to say. All of the ages of people involved, if it's about relationships, how long you've been together, as many details as possible that makes the story the most specific and detailed so we can understand it. We don't need the random details. We don't need the day of the week. So we don't need that stuff. But then take your phone or an old-fashioned timer. Was it a sundial? What's that one with the sand? Oh, that's an hourglass.
An hourglass.
Sands through the hourglass. So are the days of our lives.
Oh, okay.
That's the opening of Days of Our Lives.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Got it. This makes so much sense. That aligns. We ask that you write it down, time it out. Make sure it's under 3 minutes. If you have more time and you're like missing, you like cut out some details or something to like make it quicker, add that back in. The more details you give us and like the better it is, the better advice we can give you. And so it's beneficial for all of us. And then if you're an international listener, do the exact same thing, except just record a voice memo on your phone and email it to us at meghanpod@gmail.com.
It's Meghan Podcast.
Fuck. Email it to meghanpodcast@gmail.com. We have another show called But Am I Wrong? And that email address ends with pod. And so sometimes I forget, but listen to that on Thursday.
Also, when you're sending voice memos, please change it to an MP3 so I don't have to. It used to not be a problem, but the program we use now to record, I have to like convert it if it's not an MP3. So please just tap the little edit thing before you save it and change it to an MP3.
Woohoo! And if you want to watch the video version of this podcast, head on over to our Patreon. You can see what I would look like with short hair, which like, it doesn't look horrible.
Yeah, I actually really liked it in the last one when we were recording. But am I wrong? It was really sitting like you had short hair. And I was like, oh, it looks really cute.
But we know how like wavy and curly hair works, that it wouldn't look like that without a lot of,
Well, then you would be closer to Annalyn McCord's length. And then,
I would really just assume my role as body snatcher.
Body snapper and job snatcher.
Yep. I have arrived. It's me. Listen to the new episode of But Am I Wrong this week to hear that little bit, because I'm sure you're dying to know what we think about it. And what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Patreon. We also do live streams twice a month. They are very fun and a great way to make friends, meet people during the pandemic, and also just like have some sort of socializing. And we talk about everything on there and we have a really good time.
Yeah, it's a good little community. What's new with you?
We just like Melissa and I have been recording since this morning, and we took a break. And during this break, I saw the email that we got a counter offer on the house that we put an offer on. So it's a different style than the houses that we've like looked at before, but like I still like it. Like it has nice light. We're compromising on some stuff, but that's what we do. Someone messaged me and was like, I think you just have like unrealistic expectations with getting a house. Like you're saying this isn't your forever home. Like why are you looking at houses that are like, they look at houses that are like cheaper and like you're going to have to compromise. And I was like, compromise on everything. And like, there are no cheap homes in LA. Like that's like the issue with flipping is that like any home that costs less than $1 million, which yes, cheap quote unquote is always going to be relative. But a house that costs less than $1 million is going for cash because they are flippers who are then also going to get to it before it even gets listed. And then the second that it's listed, they are going to flip it. And they will beat you out because they have cash to do said flips. And then they put them back on the market for far more money. Like there is no, you compromise on everything when you are like buying a house. Like
if you're not educated on something, don't comment on it.
Yeah. The amount of people who don't live in the United States who are trying to give me like telling me like what I'm doing wrong when it comes to buying a house. I'm like, there's something that's like, when people are like, hey, I don't know if you've looked in, there's a way to phrase it where it's like, I don't know if you've looked into this, but like we were able to get our house because of like writing a letter to the owners and blah, blah, like trying to like pitch that, which I've said repeatedly, like you can't do here because that is illegal because it's been used to discriminate against people like over and over and over again. So you can't do that here. And even if some agents will like let you do that, it's not like legally not allowed, but agents, it like ruins their reputation.
It's frowned upon. It's not ethical.
And it's not acceptable within the like real estate community of Los Angeles. So if you do that, like you're kind of being like, I plan on not working because it'll get ratted out by the owner. Like it's just not what's done here. And it's not good.
I mean, I get cards on my house like every other day from real estate agents saying, hey, there's someone in the neighborhood that's looking to buy this. And I'm just like, you're a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's not good. And also, even if it was like allowed, you could do that in LA and it was just like we knew it was unethical, I just still wouldn't do it because Mats and I are the exact people that benefit from that. And like it would be upholding the exact same, like the crux of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
we're white and we're like straight and we're a couple.
Yeah.
It's upholding that issue. But yeah, the amount of people who will message me shit and like telling me like, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. And they're like, but I'm in this place. And I'm like, that's...
Real estate in Los Angeles is a different beast.
It's a fully different beast. And we're not moving out of Los Angeles for the 1,000th time of people asking. Like, we're not. Like, I don't think people understand also if you're not from here or like live around here, like what LA, quote unquote, LA is. There is no comparable city because like the city doesn't really stop. Like, there is no central location of the city because it depends on where you want to go. Like, people consider Santa Monica the exact same amount as like being like LA as like the east side. And those are like, it'll take you an hour and like to get from there. So like
completely different places.
When you say move out of LA in itself, to get through the city, you are driving hours and hours. That's like telling someone in New York, if New York didn't have public transportation, to just move to Pennsylvania or move to Connecticut, where it's like, sure, in theory, time-wise, but that only works if you have public transportation, and we don't have that here. So like you can't live 3 hours away, because if you live 3 hours away by car, it's going to take you 6 hours to get there back and forth because we don't have public transpo. So we'll see what about this house. It has some issues, but all houses have issues. But it's one that like they were very nice about saying the disclosures before offers were due. And most they don't even tell you until they've like accepted your offer. And you can like, if you have, you can back out. But like, so we now know up front how much, like there's a big question mark. Something might cost $2,000 or it might cost $20,000. And so we know that, but our realtor was like, this.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But at Realm, we also sell some pretty cool merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. When you think about successful businesses like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, an often overlooked secret is the business behind the business that makes selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. That's because nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret that's definitely worth talking about is that Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. That's more happy customers and way more sales going. If you're hoping to grow your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
Kind of extra cost or like disclosure thing is going to come up with every single house. You're just getting it before the offer is accepted, which is like, she's like, I wish everyone did that, but like it will, you'll have to deal with that with anything. That's what's happening. Mott's and I will discuss, and maybe we'll put a counter offer on this house. We also saw some more cute ones this weekend. We literally have like now know the like all the real estate agents nearby and all like the listing the selling agents and all of their assistants, because also Mott's, you recognize the man with a cast walking in everywhere. And so we there's just one realtor who we like literally every time we see her sign, we're like, Tracy, what's up, Tracy? Like, she's here. We've never met Tracy, but we know all of her associates. And we saw one today and they were like, hey guys. And we were like, hi. And he was like, I see you every weekend. How's the arm doing? And then at the end of the when we were leaving the open house, he was like, bye guys, see you soon. And I look at Monta and goes, he doesn't think we're gonna get this house. Like, rude. Okay. So before we get into the calls, we have an update for you all from a previous caller. It's given us the what is transpired since their original call.
The 411.
And they said about call episode. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So my original call was, I believe, season 8, episode 1. And it was about having a friend who's in a toxic relationship. And basically, my friend and I had this like falling out. And I think what I said in the call was I gave background information about how she moved really quickly with her boyfriend, who was like significantly older and had a son. And she kind of like stepped into that stepmom role really, really fast. And then he and I just did not get along. And I moved away, and she called me one day and was like asking me to get her and that she wanted to leave the relationship. And this was like earlier on in the pandemic. And so even though it kind of like broke my boundary, I went and got her because it felt like a long time coming that I would get that call. And so I went and got her, and she stayed with me for a week. And then she goes back home and she got back together with him. But I didn't find out until like my mom told me about it because she saw it on Facebook. And then a few months later, my grandmother was sick, and my friend reached out to me and asked like how I was doing. And I told her I felt like numb, and she had left me on red. And that was kind of like my breaking point. Like I just had too many things going on. So I decided to stop trying with our friendship. And when I called, she had reached out to me and apologized for everything and apologized for being a shitty friend. Oh, I called because she had deleted me off of Facebook. And I was just like, what the fuck? And so a few months later, she texted me and apologized for everything. And she had brought up the idea of us getting coffee together. And I had called in because I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue the friendship if she was in this toxic relationship. That was, I believe, everything with the call. And that was, I believe, like April or May of 2021. And since then, I would say we had like a couple of casual conversations, just kind of like, you know, like happy holidays or like happy birthdays, those kind of things. And then in July of last year, she sent me this like really dramatic text saying that she was done trying, and like, you know, she's always reaching out to me and I'm giving nothing back. And like, I read our texts and they were all like just super casual texts of just like, oh, hey, check out this song. Oh, hey, hope you're doing well. Like, I was just like, what do you need? You're not getting anything back. And so I texted her and was just like, hey, like, can we talk about this? Because I'm really confused. And she said, yeah. And we got on the phone, and I think we talked for like 6 hours or something. Basically, we just kind of like both gave our perspectives on the friendship. And she apologized for the text. She said that she was like getting in her head and she wanted a reaction. And so she did what she did to get a reaction, and it fucking worked. And I explained like how hurt I was by everything. And, you know, she had already apologized before for like the deleting me on Facebook and stuff like that. But I just kind of got into of everything, you know, for our entire friendship. Really, if she upset me, I never really talked about it. And so I just kind of like everything came out. And she acknowledged that she'd been like a really shitty friend, and sort of like there was a power imbalance within our friendship. And she said that she like acknowledges that, and she apologized for abusing her power over me. And it was like a decent conversation. You know, we talked about how we realized now that our friendship was like so toxic, and I think codependency can be useful. Like in retrospect, I now kind of see that's how we survived, was by being codependent, but also like it was hurting us more than it was helping us. And she agreed, and she was just like, oh yeah, I was so codependent. It was not good. And then that was kind of it. Or I talked about like her family had also deleted me off of social media, and that one hurt because like, you know, we've been friends since third grade. Her family was my family and vice versa. And she said that she had asked them to after like kind of everything blew up. I was kind of glad to kind of get answers for that and understand a bit more. So that was in July. And since then we've talked on the phone a handful of times. We've had conversations. We really haven't talked about my feelings about her boyfriend or her boyfriend's feelings about me. That's kind of been like the one thing left unsaid. Yeah, like I think shortly after we were started talking, and like he got really injured. And so like I was just kind of like helping her deal with helping him like talk, like being an outlet for her to voice her frustrations. And that was kind of it. Like just really casual talks. Like that was the biggest thing up until like a couple months ago. And then a few months ago, she told me that she was pregnant. And I told her, like, I'm happy for her. Like, she's always wanted to be a mom. And so, like, I was like, good for you. Happy for you. Okay. And I don't think we've really talked since. I kind of like had a spiral moment after she told me that, because I was like, in the back of my mind, I think Megan said this in the original call, but like I had this idealized version of like, oh, whenever he's out of the picture, we can be friends again. And it was just kind of like this wake up call of he's always in the picture. It was just sort of this moment of like kind of accepting what I kind of always knew was true, of just like he's always going to be around, and that's the life she wants, and that's okay. And I kind of realized later on of like, you know, all these things when they first started dating that she loved about him. I was just like, why do you like this? And I think her relationship with him, even though like he was, in my opinion, he was very like emotionally abusive, she still talks all the time about like how she loves him. And so I'm just like, you know, if these are things that you like, maybe this is just like what I needed to see, that you and I are just like not on the same page anymore. And you and I don't have like the same values, or I don't even want to say values, but like just the way we go about things. And it was overall a shitty situation, but I do think it was just necessary for me to see it all.
Yeah, it like sometimes you see people who go through these relationships that you very much see as like black and white, very toxic. Like this is like a very clear, obvious thing. And then it becomes like, oh, wow, these things that I view in this way, you might view at like a much lesser degree, or you might like these aspects of a relationship because they mean something else to you. And then it just becomes like okay, do I like just let her like, am I fine with like her happiness and her being happy in this relationship and knowing we don't want the same things? Or do I not want to be a part of this friendship because like we're fundamentally very different people and like I don't like spending time with this person?
That's sort of where I ended up. And I kind of see us now as like, I always thought we'd be like friends forever. You know, of course, like when you're young, that's what you always want. You know, you're friends for like 12 years. So of course, you know, in your brain's like, oh, so we're going to be friends forever. But yeah, I kind of see it now as like, oh, it's my childhood best friend. You know, if I talk to her, cool. If I don't, that's also okay. I don't feel the like need to be as close to her as I once was, because like no one should be that close because it was so bad.
It's valid. And also she'll be busy. She'll have a baby.
With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, and then it's also just like that little part where it's like, oh my God, people around me are having children. I'm not there, so I'm just like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first time that someone my age that I'm friends with like has a baby, I'm going to be like, what the fuck? Was this on purpose? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I think like in a Grey's Anatomy episode, Christina was like, are we being happy or are we being sad? Like, what's going on? And I think that's just sort of like how I'm going to approach it from now on and be like, whatever reaction you're having, that's what I'll have. Just tell me first how I'm supposed to react.
I know what you're referring to.
I was about to say, Melissa knows.
That's just sort of how I'm going to approach things. Like, you tell me how to react, and I will react that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good call. Well, thank you so much for giving us the update. Yeah. It's a hard thing to go through, is like the getting less close with your friends, and this is something that's like a very universal experience for a lot of people. And I'm glad that at least for right now, you guys have been able to have like a civil kind of catch up, check-in friendship in a way that seems like it's probably a lot less emotionally draining while still like having the nostalgia there.
Yeah. Therapy has been super useful. I think I mentioned in my first call, I was like starting therapy, and now I've been there for over a year, and it's been like so helpful. And like, you know, since we grew up together, everyone I know knows her, and then everyone, it's just all so interconnected.
You can't talk to anybody about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's so good to have like a third party who doesn't know anything else besides like what I tell them. And like it won't get back to anyone in any way.
That's great. Well, we're very happy for
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for giving us the update and take the time to do this. This, I feel like, is so relatable. Like, I'm happy this has the ending that it has, but this is very much, people go through this all the time. But not that Sydney's listening to this because she doesn't listen to this podcast, but that will not be, when I reference it, when I'm like, oh, this happens, this does not mean Sydney.
Yeah. Yeah, this happened to somebody in my life as well.
Yeah, I had something kind of similar. But like when you recognize that you and friends are fundamentally different. But you know me, I'm the kind of person that I'm like, if I have to confront you, I would just rather not be friends. Like there are only like a small handful of people and friends that like I would want to repair said friendship if something went wrong. But if something goes wrong in a lot of other friendships, I go, this is just my sign that this is not what I want to do.
It's time for me to leave. Make my exit.
Yeah. Get out right now. It's the end of you. She did I was on TikTok and she did like a makeup tutorial because she does her makeup on tour every night. And it was just like a old school makeup tutorial of like just JoJo doing her own makeup. And I was like, I love you.
Well, here's someone we can agree on.
JoJo? I love her.
See how I turned my hand the other way so it'd be the right color.
I was just about to say, I was like, this is so weird because you're doing this. That was your intention. That was good.
Thank you.
That was really good. I was like, holy shit. That was so. I was like, oh, I love when a joke lands out well. That was perfect. That was like comedy special level. Everyone need to go on Patreon to go see how good that was. Okay, so should we get into the calls and give some advice?
Let's do it.
Woohoo!
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I'm 23 with she, her pronouns, and this is about my internet friend Rachel, who also uses she, her pronouns. She is 24. We met 5 years ago when we were 18 on Taylor Swift's fan Twitter, and we were friends for 3 years. Myself and other friends in our internet group chat found out she had been catfishing us with a stranger's pictures and fake details about her life. It was weird, and internet friendships are based heavily on trust, so we stopped talking to her. I continued my friendship with the other people in the chat. This past December, so 2 years after that, we reconnected and forgave her. The rest of the group chat had been in the middle of planning a meetup trip since we had been friends for so long and we now had adult money. We decided to invite her to show her that we had really forgiven her. This past January, we all met up and it went terrible. I loved meeting the other girls from my chat, but Rachel was very strange in real life. She would make negative comments about the homeless population in my city. She would send back food in restaurants. She would be very quiet and ignore us because she wanted attention. She would act jealous anytime I had a private moment with my other friends. She kept calling herself fat to get compliments when she was in the presence of our friend who was bigger than she is. It felt like I was on a trip with a high schooler and a 40-year-old Karen at the same time. I just instantly knew she wasn't someone I'd ever want to be friends with in real life. Then things get juicier. When the trip ended, she told me she'd been in love with me for 5 years, and she'd been thinking about me nonstop ever since we stopped being friends all those years ago. And that she even had a playlist dedicated to me and used to cry to her therapist about me all the years we weren't friends. Side note, I'm bisexual and so is she, so rejecting her was weird. Now that we are all home in our cities and we are back in the group chat, I just don't want to continue talking to her. My other friends feel the same, but I don't know how to cut her out. She is a nice person in general, but I know she isn't someone I want as a close friend, and I made a mistake rekindling our friendship. Being completely honest, she annoys me and she acts obsessed with me. She even says she wants to move to my city now. I'm not sure what to do because I do feel bad. She has no real life friends, and I have a full-time job and my real life friends, etc. My online group chat is just one part of my life. Her entire life is this group chat, and I feel like a bad person taking it away from her. Any advice would be super helpful. Thank you.
There are two kinds of people on Stan Twitter. And this is it. This is the difference between these two. Oh my God. So before you said that like she's like really obsessed with you and wants to move to your city, at first I was like, I don't even necessarily think that she has a crush on you. I just like think that like she desperately wants like attention, and like that's like the biggest source of validation and attention that there is. But like, no, now I fully think that you're like not that I don't want to say I thought you were wrong, but I wondered if that was just for attention. But now it's like, oh no, she is just kind of like stalker, creepy movie kind of body snatcher, wear your skin, obsessed with you.
Ooh, gosh. That was a roller coaster. Very entertaining. You can get a diamond for that. Thank you for all the details.
I loved it.
I did love it. It was juicy. Very juicy. Here's the thing is that you seem concerned about, sometimes it's okay to, be selfish. And I think this is a time to be selfish because this is not somebody you want in your life. You're the one that went to her and brought her back. So I don't think anybody else in the group would have a problem with it. And they witnessed her behavior too. So they're on the same page as you. I would be concerned for my safety and I would cut her out of my life. And who knows if she actually doesn't have other friends because she lied to you for all the other time catfishing you. She could still be catfishing you. Well, not catfishing, but hiding other aspects of her life. She may or she may not. But she got along seemingly okay when you guys weren't talking to her, so she can get along again when you're not talking to her. So put yourself first. Watch out for your safety. Does she know your address and things? Look into that. Sorry you're going through this.
Yeah, it's not your responsibility to mitigate the results of her actions. This is she did all of these things that are beyond just I think you need to detach yourself from the fact that you find her annoying because that's the least, that feels most personal and not personal attack towards her, but for you it feels the most this is a me problem, and that's kind of where you can start to feel guilty. But she's making horrible comments and morally you don't seem to align at all, and that was already after she was on thin ice because she catfished you all and lied about all of this kind of stuff. And so I think if you take away the I find her annoying argument in your head, I think it'll be a much easier thing for you to just be done. But yeah, it's not anyone's responsibility. Even if you're I'm someone who it's when you know someone's situation and what they're going through, that can help you have a better understanding of why they might be doing the thing that they're doing or why they're going about something in the way that they are. But that doesn't dictate, that doesn't have to change how I feel about it. I can understand you better, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to necessarily, I don't want to say be more understanding, but be more understanding, value what you are doing and the reason why you're doing it above my comfort level. Mm-hmm. If that makes me uncomfortable, I don't really care why you're doing it. It might be helpful for me to know why or why you are this way. But knowing that can also make me solidified in being okay, I don't think you're a bad person, but I don't want to be a part of your life or I want to separate myself from you for this. It doesn't have to be a justification or excuse for the behavior that then makes you feel like you have to stay in that. I've been in that as a kid, that someone treated me so badly and they had stuff going on in their own lives and things that they dealt with that I was told by adults in my life. And I was forced to maintain a friendship with this person and it was hell. And then I ended up being really mean to her because she was really mean to me. And then I was a bitch for that because it's there's things that you're dealt some shit in life and you do what you do with them. And not everybody has the same tools to do what they can with those cards, but you don't have to settle for that kind of behavior. And I think that especially because you've said that she has made her feelings to you clear and you feel uncomfortable with she wants to move to your city and all of that stuff, really value that and real, because that is not okay. And that's really uncomfortable. And that's not something that you need to deal with for the sake of her feeling uncomfortable for making you feel super uncomfortable.
What was on the playlist?
Taylor Swift songs. Probably.
I know, but what specific songs?
Would you like me to tell you what songs I think were on it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what side of Taylor Swift stan Twitter you are on. I don't know if you're on the Kaylor Gaylor Twitter. I don't know if you're on Ed Sheeran Taylor. I don't know if it's Joe Taylor. I don't know what the ships are that would then
I
dictate
didn't know
maybe
all these existed.
Oh, there are so many.
I knew about the first one because I've heard you talk about it, but not the rest.
Yeah. There's also the Joe Jonas Taylor Swift romanticizers, there's all of these different ones. So I don't know where she falls on that, because for that, then I would pick specific songs that resonate with those parts of the fandom. But I would say Lover, probably.
It's ones that she cried to. So you got to think about that too.
Oh, great. Lover, All Too Well, obviously. Champagne Problems, Nothing New is not necessarily a love song, but that is a song if you were going to cry to one, you would do that. Exile, pretty much anything from Folklore or Evermore. The One, I could see like the upbeat song that's actually quite sad that she could be sad to. My Tears Ricochet, of course. There's a lot.
Okay.
Now I want to listen to some bops. Yeah, this is Stan Twitter, gets them all. You can, some people, runs the gamut.
Yeah. All right. Call 2.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. First of all, I want to tell you how great I think your podcast is and how helpful your advice is to so many people. To not make this confusing, I'll start by saying that I'm a 20-year-old queer girl that is currently studying engineering at university. I've been dating my girlfriend for 11 months, and recently we decided it was best for us to take a break. The reason for this was based on a couple of things. One being that she doesn't feel like she can trust me because I'm using a dating app to find.
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all. I'm JJ.
Hey, guys. It's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests who share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to like speak of them or talk about them or in any way like portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. Like it would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
We're friends. She's the first person that I've gotten together with, and I love her so damn much. And I would never want to cheat nor hurt her in any way. But at the same time, I'd like to expand my circle of queer friends. I'm not really big on social events nor parties. There's not many opportunities for me to meet new friends, unfortunately. I also find it easier to text through an app to communicate with people. I'm very aware that this makes my girlfriend uncomfortable, even though I really wish it wouldn't. She's also told me that it annoys her that I take out my bad mood on her, meaning I stop talking to her or act more harsh towards her. Mostly that bad mood comes from school stress and having to take care of my apartment since I recently moved to a new city to study here. I really do try my best to handle my emotions and not let my bad mood affect the relationship. I should mention that my girlfriend doesn't study at the moment. She's got 2 part-time jobs that take up 2 to 4 days a week. I sometimes feel like she doesn't understand the stress I'm under and is therefore taking my bad mood as me being mad at her, even though I'm really not. We also live in 2 different countries, her being from Denmark and me being from Sweden, which means we're kind of long distance. It takes about 2.5 hours to get to each other by train. Therefore, we usually spend at least 2 or 3 days at each other's places, which kind of means we have to pause our lives or reschedule our lives around the time we see each other. With all this said, my question is basically what your stance on using dating apps to get friends is, and what I should do to fix my relationship, if possible. I really love her, and I hate that I've managed to hurt her this much. Thank you for your advice in advance, and feel free to be as real as you want. Oh, and I don't know if this is helpful in any way, but I'm a Leo and my girlfriend is a Gemini. Thank you.
You can't be on, this is sus as fuck. Like,
yes.
you can't, like, being on a dating app while you're like, oh, I'm just trying to find friends. Like, I hope, I know that, like, you're not, like, this is just, like, this is a fuckboy thing. Like, that's, like, what a guy who is cheating on you says. He's like, no, I'm just on dating. He like gaslights you to be like, no, I'm just on dating apps, like make friends. Like, that's just what I'm, and you're like, no, that's sus as fuck. And like, it's not just because that's what they, like, those are the guys that do it. It's because like, as an act, like it is sus as hell because nobody puts when they're on dating apps, like unless you're going to like Bumble BFF or like something that's just for friends, you are then also misleading the people who see you on there. And when you say you're on there just for friends, let me tell you,
just for friends means I'm hooking. We want to just fuck. That's what just friends means.
Yep.
So, like, I don't know in Sweden where you are, do they have Bumble where you can switch your profile to be BFF? So then, yeah, you can use that just for friends or some other dating app that's equivalent. But if somebody I was dating was on I heard them say, I'm on dating apps to meet friends. I just wouldn't be down for it if we're in a monogamous relationship. Yeah, no.
If that was even going to happen, like, you can't just do that. It have to be like a sit down conversation of like, hey, I'm really struggling to like make friends here. And I know that like maybe we met on a dating app, or like this is like how people meet in relationship wise. Like, I want to know if you would feel comfortable if I like set my profile to say that I was like looking for friends and doing that. Like that, I think you should even let your partner know before you go on Bumble, like BFF, just like to like let them know, because like that app is on your phone and it like that is something that there is a connotation with dating apps for dating.
Because they're for dating. It's called a dating app for a reason.
It's like, yeah, that just sounds like I would not trust you at all, if you said that to me. And then for the part about like, you sound very like sincerely remorseful that you've like hurt her. And like, I think the difference is though, is that like, you're recognizing what you're doing and like you're taking your bad mood out on her, like has been like hurting her or whatever, but you're also kind of justifying it. And it's like, well, it's because of this. It's like, so that just, can you change your behavior? Because if you can't change your behavior, it doesn't really matter why you're doing it. Like, you are doing it. And like,
yeah, you shouldn't take your frustrations out. You can be mad, but you don't take your frustrations out on your partner or anyone else for that matter. So since you guys are long distance, why not, if you're in one of your moods, just tell her, I'm not, filling up for company right now. So I won't be contacting you until I'm out of this mental rut.
Yeah. And if you are hanging out in person and like you're frustrated about work or something like that, like, yeah, you only get 2 or 3 days together every time. And like, you do have to schedule like your life around that. That's not like a courtesy. That is something that you just kind of have to do. Both of you have to do when you're dating someone long distance in this way. And if you're going to do that, I think that you also do need to like schedule around like work stuff that could possibly come up and ruin that time. And if you have a hard time not taking out your bad mood on her, which is something I think you should definitely work out in therapy, because you shouldn't take your bad mood on anyone. If you have a hard time with that, then you need to remove those triggers, that work stuff, from when she's there. If that's like an inevitable outcome, that right now what you do is you take it out on her when you have work stress. Or school stress. When you have school stress, you take it out on her. And so schedule your timing stuff with her when you're not doing school stuff. So that can't come up because right now you don't have a healthy response mechanism to that. But I will also say that like Mats is definitely someone who like he doesn't like take his bad moods out on me, but like I am someone who like I'm like I'm never going to use the E word that everybody uses, even though my therapist used to describe me, but it gives me the cringe. I'm very perceptive to other people's like emotions and feelings. And for people I care about, I can sometimes be like, oh, are you mad at me? Like, I'm assuming that, that's my anxiety, like assuming people are mad at me or upset with me or whatever. And so something that both of us do with each other now is if one of us is like really stressed or having a bad day at work and we're not home, before we come home, we will text the other person and be like, had a really rough day at work, might be pretty low energy tonight. And just giving the other person like getting ahead of it. So it's not like, it's okay if you can't suppress your emotions and like compartmentalize and like box things up and like suck it down. And if you can't do that, fine. That's very okay. But you need to let your partner know ahead of time that that's where your mindset is at, and not just assume that you're going to do a wonderful job covering it up, because it's going to come out at some point and you're going to see those like little glimpses of that. And if you don't have some information and knowledge of to why that's happening, it's natural to assume that it's about you and to think that like you are the reason why that they're upset, and getting ahead of it like that. But I think like this just feels like you both have very different like ways of communicating. And I think that therapy is always helpful. And also, if you don't like how you are treating someone and you recognize that like the behaviors that you have and the things that you typically do are fine when you're single and it's just you by yourself. But the second that there is like a friend involved or a relationship involved, like it comes up and it's like not working out so well, that might be a sign that like taking a step back from a relationship so you're not hurting anyone, so you can like work on yourself to be better. Because these things that serve us when we are alone don't always serve us when we're with other people. But that doesn't mean necessarily that those people are the wrong people for us. Sometimes it's like, oh, this coping mechanism that I've had only works during my individual, like when I'm solo, but also it can also work for a certain period of time and then it no longer serves me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that this could be a really great like growing time for you. Because if I was I'd feel really disrespected in like all aspects.
I would feel so disrespected.
And full disclosure, I would have dumped you.
It just seems so sus, but especially after I've had the conversation with you that I wasn't comfortable with this, and then you try to still justify it. There's other ways to meeting friends. Like there's Facebook groups. There might be a community at your school. Like dating apps just not it.
It's so sus. Like if I knew anybody who like told me this, like if your girlfriend called in, I'd be like, she's cheating on you.
Mm-hmm.
Like without a doubt. Like like, and we're having to take your word for it. I mean, I'm not saying that you are, but she's having to take your word for it when like the probability of that of this being true. Normally, I'm not doubting that that's the truth for you, but like if I was her friend, I'd be like, you're no.
Yeah, because people on dating apps are looking for dating, and it doesn't have to just be dating. If their profile, I said this before, but if their profile says just looking for friends, that means fucking. Like there's no.
Like, imagine if you matched with someone who said, like, just looking for friends, and you don't assume that that's, like, I've matched, like, when I had Raya for a short stint, because I asked Mott's permission because I was just, like, having an insecure couple months, and I just, like, wanted to feel good about myself, so I got on dating apps where I succeed as a two-dimensional creature, and I matched with someone who their profile said, just looking for friends. It was abundantly clear. I knew they weren't looking for friends. This man had no shortage of friends. He had so many friends.
Mm-hmm.
But like, imagine if you matched with somebody like right now on a dating app and it said like, just looking for friends. And then you go out, like you wouldn't assume that they were.
Yeah.
You would just assume they're just hooking up. Like they're just casual. They're not looking for a relationship, because that's like usually how it's broken up. It's like, I guess there's like looking for, what is it?
Looking for friends, looking for a serious relationship, or being casual.
And so most people put casual because they think that that's the correct answer to not scare people off. Even in reality, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And then people who put just friends are looking to fuck, and they want you. They're trying to not put casual because they know that everybody puts casual because they really don't want to. It means dating because they don't want to seem like they're coming on too strong or being too much. And so they want to make it abundantly clear that they're just looking for friends who they can swap saliva with and juices. I have faith that this can change though,
Yeah, but you got to do some soul searching though.
Yeah. Don't let this be your villain origin story.
All right. Should we take a break?
Let's do it. Should we be back from our break?
I guess so.
We're back from our break. Woo! Let's get into the rest of the calls.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I love the podcast. I have a bit of an interesting roommate dilemma that I would love some advice on, and I have a lot of details to share, so I'm going to get right into it. So I'll start out. I have 3 roommates. We'll call them Alice, Matthew, Sam. Alice 24, she, her. Matthew 25, he, him. Sam 23, he, him. And I'm 22 and use she, her pronouns. Some logistics. We all moved in at the start of the school year. We all go to grad school. Me, Matthew, Sam are in our 3rd years. Alice is in our 1st years. Alice is in her 3rd year. I have a dog. Alice has a cat, and we have a driveway, fenced in backyard, are within walking distance to campus, and are under all of our budget. So mostly things have gone well, which is great. Matthew's said and done a couple weird things to us, as well as being less clean. Me and Alice have become quite good friends. We go out together. We go on hikes. We have movie nights. We both really like living with each other and have agreed that no matter what else happens, we'd like to continue living together. Our original plan was to ask Matthew to find a different place next year, which shouldn't be too much of a concern or a shock, as we brought up our concerns to him multiple times, and just replace him. Now, the interesting part, at the beginning of the lease, Alice was in a long-term, long-distance relationship with someone who had kids, and she broke up with him at the start of the new year because she didn't want to be a stepmom to his kids. Very fair.
I support it completely. During this time period, I did notice that she FaceTimed him 2 to 4 times a day when they were together. I'm not saying this is bad, but it's very different from how I go about relationships. We're very similar in many other ways. Flash forward to January, she goes on a really good date with a guy. This is about 2 weeks after breaking up with her long-term boyfriend. We'll call him Greg, and they start casually dating. Greg seems great, but they've been seeing each other for not even 2 months, and they're already engaged and planning a wedding for sometime 6 months to 1 year from now. Obviously, this is incredibly fast, and I am a little bit concerned from her, but I've given her my opinion, and I'm just going to try and be there for her no matter what happens. It's also worth noting that she's barely spent any time at home or with anyone else since they made things between them official about a month ago. Now she's talking about having him move in at the end of her lease, and it just being the 3 of us as he could cover 2 people's rent. I don't necessarily mind living with a couple, especially if I get to know him better, but it seems really fast. And especially because she's talking about wanting to kick Sam out, who would be completely blindsided by this. And I'm a little bit confused about that myself. I would really appreciate any advice on this. And I love the podcast. Thanks. Bye.
Did she have more time?
She had 30 seconds left.
Oh my God. Babe, I would have loved if you utilized those 30 seconds. Because here's the thing. I take notes because otherwise I won't remember things. I wrote down Alice, Matthew, Tim. And then we get to the end of the call. And then she said something about Sam.
Greg?
And I go,
there's a Greg in there too, right?
Tim? Oh yeah, Greg is the new boyfriend. But I was trying to get all the roommates' names. And then she wrote and then something about Sam. And I was like, who the fuck is Sam? But I think I either misheard Tim or Sam. So the third roommate's either named Tim or Sam. Okay. I know it sounds like the calls, you can hear as a listener that the calls I think they sound better when you are listening as a podcast than us listening. I don't know. They just do, and they're easier to.
Because when you're just listening as a podcaster, you don't have to listen as carefully.
Yeah. You can pause and rewind and do all of that stuff. But yeah. So I really appreciate all of the detail. And
it was too many details, to be honest.
Well, at first I was just kind of are you have to tell us your floor plan and your social security numbers?
We didn't need to know that there was
dogs
and a fenced-in backyard. We didn't need to know that information.
I think what the summary of that is that you really like the place. It has everything that you want. And so that's kind of what I'm assuming was what that means, because that makes this decision, you have to factor in the fact that you really love the place that you live, and it might kind of be an anomaly for where you are. Okay. So
but the gist of it is you want to live with one of these people and kick out the other people. And
you wanted to live with Alice.
Yeah.
And then they wanted to kick out, it was going to be Alice, you, and then let's decide it's Tim.
Okay.
And you wanted to live with Alice and Tim, and you were going to kick out Matthew because he's a bad roommate, and you've tried talking to him and he hasn't adjusted and changed. But then Alice started dating 2 weeks after breaking up with her boyfriend, long-term boyfriend, started dating a guy named Greg, and now they've been dating for 2 months and they're engaged. And Alice wants to kick out Matthew and Tim because you and her since the beginning have said that no matter what, you want to live together. Mm-hmm. So then you would live with both of them. No, I know you said you're fine with living with a couple. No, in general. And I say no to living with a couple, even if it's a couple who's been together for 10 years or a very long time, unless you really have to. And it's a very unique situation, and you are friends with them, and you have really strong you're not friends with them. You have really strong boundaries, and they are roommates who happen to live on a different floor with a different entrance. And even that, it should be temporary, because I cannot stress to you how much it is you are signing back up to be a child and live in a 2-parent household with people who are not parent age and have no responsibility to you as their child to kind of protect you from their arguments, which parents don't even always do. It is just a unhinged version of being a child around parents who aren't looking out for you. I don't recommend it, let alone when they have been dating for 2 months.
But also, if he can cover the amount for 2 people's rent, because they're going to kick out one of the other people. So if he can cover the amount for 2 people's rent, then they can go get another place.
Well, I think that's
this is 3 rents. 3 rents.
I think it's
paid.
Alice's subconscious of trying to keep a friendship close, and maybe there's a little part of her that knows that this relationship is moving really fast and this is being a lot, and you are essentially being a safety net for this engagement if you are living with her, because you would all she would have you. And that to me is she would have you to rely on to talk about the relationship when they're going through stuff. And like, then that becomes like your dad talking or your mom talking badly to you about your dad because and then you have to see him in the kitchen later getting coffee. Like, you have to live with it. And like, no, like this is you let her know. Like, I'm really like, I appreciate you wanting to still like live with me and reaching out because that's something that we had talked about. That was us living together. I'm like, obviously really happy for you that you are happy in a relationship. All I care about is your happiness. But I really don't want to live with like a couple. Like, this should be an exciting time for you. If you would like, this should be something that like you're excited to live together and like start your relationship together. And that's just like not something that I like feel comfortable doing. So thank you for asking, but like need to live with you guys, but I'm going to like figure out my own living situation. And that's it.
But the thing is, if you're going to be the one, now it's just two of you. So you're needing to kick out two other people, right?
No, here's the thing. This is when you have to deal with, you have to deal with Matthew. Yeah. So there's Tim, Sam, and Matthew. So Alice is gone. And so you were planning on kicking out Matthew. Did she say that they were planning on finding someone to replace him? Okay, so then here's the thing.
But Greg is taking, is going to pay enough for two people. So that's the thing is like, if Greg moves in, then he's going to cover both of them. So then they wouldn't have to find another roommate.
But what if you don't want to live with them? Do you think that Greg is just going to move in and then be like, Tim/Sam, you can stay. And then you are now left with Matthew, who you don't want to live with, and you have no place to live.
Yep.
Okay, here's the thing. This is what you got to do. You and Tim/Sam. You need to sit down with Tim/Sam, and you need to do some damage control with Matthew, because here's the thing. Right now, you are split 2 and 2 because Matthew can be like, fuck all y'all. Alice can be like, Matthew, we're so sorry that they were all so mean to you and telling you that you needed to like put your dishes away and like clean up dog shit. Like, they were so unreasonable. Why don't we stay here together and we won't have to get anyone else. And then she's going to recruit Matthew, but then it'll just be you and Tim. And then you're 2 and 2 and you're split. You can't do anything about it. So what you and Tim/Sam need to do is you and Tim/Sam need to recruit Matthew, backpedal all the shit you talked about, Matthew, so you can be 3 against 1 and say goodbye to your friendship with Alice if you want to keep this apartment. Or you tell her how like great these you find like a really cute, wonderful, nice place for her to live with, like her and Greg, and you like talk it up so much. You talk it up so much, or maybe you go tour it and you're like, oh, it's just too expensive for like me and Matthew to like cover ourselves. Like, it's so it's so beautiful. You should go look at it. You would love it. And you get her to go there, and then you work overtime and recruit to get someone else to fill the spot of Alice and Matthew if you want, or you just also backpedal with Matthew, and then you just have one person to replace Alice.
This sounds like a lot of work. I would just leave.
I would too.
Yeah, it sounds like so much work.
And again, like right now, as it stands, it seems like you're going to end up in a 2 against 2 situation. And like, this is going to be a lot of fighting for this. And I don't think that you're necessarily going to walk away with the friendships intact. And I think if that's your priority, then I would find a new place to live.
Yeah.
And also just know that statistically, most likely Alice and Greg will break up and then you can eventually live with her again. And so if that's something that you like really like her as a person and you want to maintain the friendship, that this is a phase, that don't tell her that this is a phase, but you got to preserve the friendship if you want to have that friendship down the road.
This still has my mind just like in mush.
I've never taken enough Adderall in my life to keep up with that amount of details. Like, I can talk that fast, but I cannot get that much information out. I can't even say that much. Like, I can talk that much. I can talk that fast. I can use the same amount of words, but I am not saying that much information.
Yeah. Okay. Next call.
Ooh.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I am 23 years old and I go by she, her. I am a Latina. I recently found out that one of my friends is a Trump supporter. We met through work and had been friends for 2 years. Our other friend, let's call her Nancy, is the one who told me. Nancy said she thought I knew, but I've always been pretty clear about my political views. And one time, in front of both of them, said I would never be friends with a Trump supporter. So I don't really know how Nancy thought I knew. No matter of fact, Nancy told me that one time she was hanging out with a Trump supporter, and Nancy told her to never mention that to me if she wanted to continue being my friend. I'm not sure what they were talking about exactly, but it was definitely about politics. It's safe to say that the Trump supporter is out of my life for good. But I guess my question is, do you think I can trust Nancy? Should I believe that she thought I knew? She's kind of all over the place and has a different friend group, and I kind of feel like it wasn't that deep to her. Also, after this happened, I told a few of my other friends, and I feel that although I've always been pretty sure that my friends and I share views, how do I know for sure? I feel like I can't trust people to be upfront about their views, especially because the Trump supporter would talk crap about her family and agree with me when I would talk about, how the many reasons why I don't support Trump. I guess my question is, how do I make sure my friends and future friends are not Republicans? Love you both. Thank you.
Nancy sus.
Yep.
Nancy sus. This is your weak link. I'm letting you know right now. Nancy is why you're having these feelings and you're questioning these things. Nancy is the wild card, and Nancy's the reason why you feel like this. I don't feel like this in my life ever at all, because the conversations I have with my friends are not just me bringing up things. They're also bringing it up. They're instigating and starting those conversations.
It's also talking about, not just talking about what political party you belong to, but what beliefs you have as well. So if you're just organically talking about, climate change or like women's health and like immigration, like those things are going to be more telling than just saying I'm a Democrat, I can't be friends with a Trump supporter. You've got to have real conversations.
And it seems like you are someone who is like passionate about politics and like not even just politics, but like social and moral issues that are happening as a result has become political in our country. That is something that like should come, like you should have those conversations with your friends. And that's not something that you need to like investigate or discover about them. Like that's something that like I personally value, people who are like my friends who are also like driven by social causes. Like I wouldn't be friends with someone who wasn't. Mm-hmm. And so like I don't feel the need to dig or question them or like try and figure it out. It's just like we share this, we have this like shared thing that we both care about that like we both independently will bring up in conversation to each other. And it's not in like a quizzing or testing way. It is just like a holy shit, can you believe like blah, blah, like before we ever even, I think we probably always talked about social issues and stuff like on our podcast, but I'm like, we've had, we have more conversations about like moral and social issues off the podcast than we do. And we talk on the podcast like hours every single week. Like, but that's how I am with like all of my friends. And like, you don't have to all be interested in the same things. Like I have some friends who's like, are more passionate about different aspects of it and are like less informed or educated about other parts. And like we teach each other about things, but like the root origins of all of them are the same. And Nancy is sus.
Yep.
Nancy is...
I hear Nancy, you know who I'm thinking about?
Stranger Things girl?
Nope. I'm thinking about Slob on the Knob, Reagan.
Oh, throat goat.
The throat goat.
The throat goat. Who's also kind of sus.
Yeah, I mean, she's not sus at all.
But I mean, I guess that's true. Now that we know that it was not private information. Like that was public information that like I just didn't know. So that's on me. But yeah, this is just like, I think that like, okay, so let's say you're Jessica and Nancy is like talking with friends and is like, oh, don't bring up to Jessica that you're a Republican. Like she will not like that's the quickest way that she will not be friends with you. Like if you want to do not do that. First of all, why is Nancy hanging out with Republicans if she is like as passionate about this as you are? I don't think she is. And then also, why is she trying to protect them in a friendship with you and have them intentionally deceive you and not bring up something about them that would impact how you feel about them? Like, what? Like this isn't like don't bring up that you're you're a fold your toilet paper roll, like your toilet paper roll on the outside versus like the inside, like hanging down. Like that's irrelevant. But like this is like something that you want to surround yourself with those people. She's protecting them. And you seem like she was like, oh, she doesn't think it's not that deep to her. I think that's because I would say Nancy is probably not aligned politically with you and is not nearly as progressive as you are, or maybe as she thinks she is, or she's alluded to you. Because if she's encouraging other people to not say their political beliefs to you, why do we believe that she's being honest?
Yeah. Think we found the imposter. We found the imposter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nancy's the imposter. Yeah, it's Nancy. It's Nancy. And I promise, I can't promise, but like, I bet you, when you cut out her and you make other friends, you might feel like a little like hesitant at first to feel like, oh no, how do I do this? But the end, you're going to meet someone and you're going to be like, oh, I don't have to worry. I don't have to test. There are other people like me out there who it's a conversation right off the bat. Like, this is, I've never had a friend who aligned with me. That's why I think I have to find them.
Even just like in directing audiobooks, when we get on, we can't see each other. We haven't had conversations before, me and the actor. And we'll kind of like test each other out and see what beliefs are. Be like, man, it's hot outside. And then we'll see what the other person says.
Global warming.
Yeah. And then, it's funny when we're first getting on and just kind of having conversations. But
that's so funny.
Because sometimes the books are political or political adjacent or just about, rights as whatever. And we're just kind of figuring out what the other person thinks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, shit, I do that in everything, not even on purpose. Like, I had to find a new general practitioner because like I found out that, he was a Trump supporter and like, and was super homophobic. And I was like, okay, no, like, when you operate your life in that sense and like that way, I promise you're going to make one friend first who is the same as you. And then you're never going to have to question ever again. Because like, if you have to question, that's that there's your answer.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like and people always say like, well, no, not everybody's like upfront with their beliefs. Like some people like are quiet about their beliefs. And I'm like, they're not progressive then. And they're like, well, no, lots of like people hide the fact. I was like, nobody does. Because it's so embarrassing. I'd be mortified. I am a white blonde woman. I statistically know that we do not have a great track record. So I understand. Look at me, judge me, immediately, automatically think I'm a Republican and a conservative. That is
that's your own biases.
But you would also you would most likely be right. And that's my responsibility to be like, no, I'm going to go above and beyond because there's nothing more embarrassing than like someone for a prolonged period of time. If they told me like, oh, I always thought you were a Trump supporter, I'd be like, like that would cut deep. That would cut deep. So nobody who is progressive is going to let you think otherwise unless they're not as progressive as they think they are.
Yep.
And also you can also still be, just to note, you can still be like progressive and like vote for progressive policies and like as a white person still uphold white supremacy and still like hide that to like stay comfortable in spaces and comfortable with the status quo that has benefited you for centuries upon centuries, which is not like an innocent thing. That is like still horrible.
All facts, no lies detected.
So goodbye, Nancy. Nancy's the imposter. Is that the title of this episode?
Yes.
Nancy is the imposter. People are going to be like, what the fuck is this episode about? Okay. Well, we have Don't Blame Them. So this is where a listener will call in and thus becoming a caller. And they're going to give their own advice on a call we had played on previous episodes. So maybe they have personal experience with it. It's something that we overlooked or didn't say, or they just have their own thoughts and feelings. So you can get another perspective on it.
Ready? Here we go.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I'm calling for a Don't Blame Them for the most recent episode. It was the call about the 21-year-old person who was sober and having a hard time socializing as a result. And I wanted to come from the perspective of someone who is not sober, but who doesn't really drink. A little bit of backstory. One of my parents is sober, and it was like kind of a big deal as a kid, like trying to get him to go sober. And so it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth as far as alcohol goes. I do drink sometimes, but very rarely. And I just wanted to give a little bit of advice on how to form relationships as a sober person, because I don't really drink. What I do is I will try to get to know people. You know how when you have friendships and you have like the get to know each other phase, I will say, well, what do you like to do? I like to do this, and I don't really drink. And then you can go to like a restaurant, and hopefully it'll be a restaurant that doesn't really serve alcohol. And as you get a little bit closer with said friend, you can say, by the way, I'm actually sober and I don't drink because of X, Y, and Z. And hopefully they're a good friend and they will respect that. And then if they're not, then you can totally move on and try that with other people, and it will stick, because I have a friend who is sober, and this is exactly what they did for me. Recently, before the panini got worse, again, we were vaccinated and we decided to go to a comedy show in Vegas. And while they were in Vegas with me, I was sober with them. So they were able to enjoy Vegas without feeling the pressure of having alcohol around them. I ordered us virgin drinks, and it was a really good time. So I also want to say, as you get older, it gets a lot easier because more and more people drink less and less as they get older. That's just my experience. And I come from a pretty alcohol-heavy town, so I have a lot of experience with that. So hopefully that helps, and congratulations. I'm super proud of you. It's a huge step to take. So congratulations, and I hope that helps. Bye-bye.
Great.
Love it. Absolutely, absolutely love it. And yeah, again, we talked about this at length with the last episode, but anyone who is so personally threatened by someone else being sober, or they are can't imagine being friends with someone, wouldn't be friends with someone who doesn't drink because it's so prevalent in their lives. Those are people who probably should also evaluate their relationship with alcohol. And I think it's really hard to make friends with people who have a healthy relationship with drinking, because I don't think a lot of people do have a healthy relationship with drinking. I don't want to say sobriety is a very but alcoholism is there's a definition of it, and the same thing with sobriety. But it's not just people who are not alcoholics and people who are alcoholics. They're within that range. There are also people who just don't have great relationships with alcohol. There are people who have allergic reactions to alcohol. There are people there are all of these other things that a lot more people fall into that is not just alcoholism. That's something that I think part of the reason why people I find they either drink a lot more or a lot less when they get older, and they just get older in their lives. And it's because they recognize that they don't have the healthiest relationship with alcohol, whether that's I get really bad hangovers, I get migraines for days on end, I can't function the day after, I get really nauseous. Two things oh, I'm not good at saying no to having another drink. I don't really know my limits. I don't feel safe blacking out as an adult. And that there are all these things that come with that age. And then there's also people who just kind of double down and continue maintaining an unhealthy relationship with it. But when you get older and people get more responsibilities, it tends to be something that coincides with drinking less. And I think personally that once you hit 30, then there's absolutely not even, but I'd say now I probably still, some people are you don't drink, but I would say 30. And that's for my friends who are 30 and older than that, that's when you start to know people who are sober and have gone to rehab and have gone through all of that stuff. And the judgment, it cuts down. I think it cuts down because they're recognizing people they've known for either their whole life or large chunks of their lives that they partied with and they drank with and they've seen drunk have had to reevaluate their relationship with alcohol, which then makes them evaluate their own.
Yeah, I went to this party in Malibu. It was an open bar, it was paid for. And I had already decided, just because Malibu was windy, that I wouldn't even have one drink while I was there. I mean, not windy, windy. But I rarely drink as it is anyway. And then I said I wasn't going to drink. And then someone else was like, oh, I'm not going to drink either. I'll hang out with you. And then someone else was like, oh, this is the non-drinking group. So it was 6 of us that hung out the whole night and weren't drinking. And it's when you say that, more people are into it. So
every wedding I've gone to, people get excited now that they know me, but before they knew me, when I was like, oh, I don't drink, the amount of people who I could visibly see the relief on their faces being like, oh my God, great. I'm not going to drink then too. We can hang out. And I'm like, the fact that you felt obligated to do this, that's like, our culture's fucked with that. Like, and now when people are like so excited, so like even now that we're older, it's all the pregnant girl, all the moms, and then people are like, oh my God, you're going to be here. Great. We don't have to drink together. This is awesome. And no one's going to think I'm pregnant because I'm not drinking. And I was like, great, perfect. Versus before, it would be like, why not? Just have one shot. And I'm like, no. Like, why is that fun for you? It's not. You're insecure. Well, that is it for our episode. If you want to leave us a review on the podcast app, we appreciate it. And if you want to call in for an upcoming episode, leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976. And you can send us an audio message, international listeners, at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. All of the same things I said at the top of the episode apply for the call and voice memos. And if you are listening this far into the episode, head on over to our Instagram and comment Nancy sus. And our Patreon, if you want to sign up. And we also have our merch available. Get it while you can.
Yeah. Limited quantities left.
Yeah.
And give us some words of encouragement to make some more merch.
Okay. Well, we will see you all next time and listen to our other podcast, What Am I Wrong, on Thursday.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Don't Blame Me is a production by me. Executive produced by Melissa DeMonts and Diamond Imprint Productions. Edited by Coco Lawrence. Post-production sound by Chris Henry. Production assistance by Melanie D. Watson. Music by Ryan Hunter and Giacomo Picasso.
Merry Christmas, everybody. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm here with my good buddy,
Danny Jordan.
And we are the co-hosts of the Let me try that again. Merry Christmas, everybody. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm here with my good buddy,
Danny Jordan.
And we are the hosts of Christmas Countdown Show.
We're so thrilled to be bringing the merriment to you all this holiday season.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be massively merry, gigantically jolly, fantastically festive, as some people might say, Eric. We are all about alliterations, and we are all about Christmas spirit. On Christmas Countdown, we love to count down our top 10 favorite things related to the holiday season. That could be food, movies, music, everything that we all love about this massively merry good time. So wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you click that subscribe button. Eric, are you ready?
I am ready, and we hope that you are too. Merry Christmas, everybody. Let's go. It should be like, let's go, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I study the secrets of the divine plagues and uncover the blasphemous truth that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Buntwine, wherever podcasts are available.